One sentence shattered me. People like you aren't welcome. But that night didn't end how they expected.
Imagine walking into a restaurant, hungry and excited, only to be told, "We don't serve people like you." That's exactly what happened to Maya, a young woman who thought it was just another normal evening. But what came next shocked everyone in that room. Before I reveal how one powerful twist turned this ugly moment upside down, make sure to subscribe and share, because stories like these need to be heard. Maya was a 26-year-old graduate student who had just moved to a new city for her research program. She was ambitious, hardworking, and carried herself with quiet confidence. After spending her first week unpacking boxes and settling into her small apartment, she decided to treat herself to dinner at a popular local restaurant. It was one of those cozy family-owned places that people often recommended for its warm atmosphere and homemade recipes. That evening, Maya dressed neatly, tied her braids back, and walked in with a book tucked under her arm. She had no idea that this night would become one she'd never forget. The restaurant had soft lighting, the smell of fresh bread in the air, and a few families chatting over their meals. Everything seemed normal, almost welcoming, until she approached the front counter. The hostess barely looked at her. She hesitated, scanning Maya up and down in a way that felt more like judgment than service. "We're full tonight," she said curtly, her tone carrying no warmth. Maya glanced at the half-empty dining room and politely asked if she could wait. The hostess muttered something under her breath and disappeared. Maya stood there, clutching her book, trying not to make a scene. She reminded herself that maybe the hostess was just having a bad day. But when another group of diners walked in right after her, they were welcomed instantly and shown to a table, no questions asked. That was the moment Maya realized something was off. Her chest tightened and her thoughts raced. Was she really being denied service because of the color of her skin? She didn't want to believe it, but the signs were impossible to ignore. Maya stood still, trying to process what she had just seen. The family that walked in after her was seated with smiles and menus, while she remained ignored at the counter. Her heart sank, but she decided to give the hostess one more chance. "Excuse me," Maya said softly, forcing a polite smile. "I was wondering how long the wait might be for a table for one." The hostess looked at her again, this time with open disdain. "Like I told you, we're full. Maybe try somewhere else." Her words were sharp, each syllable laced with irritation. Maya glanced around the room, several empty tables, waiters moving casually, no sign of a full house. "But there are tables open," she replied, her voice firm but calm. That's when the insult landed. The hostess leaned closer, lowering her voice just enough to sting. "We don't serve people like you here." Maya froze. For a second, she thought she had misheard. Her book trembled slightly in her hand as her mind replayed the phrase, "People like you." The weight of those words crushed the air out of her lungs. It wasn't about being full. It wasn't about policy. It was about her skin. A couple at the nearest table shifted uncomfortably. A waiter passing by slowed his steps, catching the exchange but saying nothing. The silence of those around her was almost as loud as the insult itself. Maya considered, leaving right then, but something inside her told her to stand her ground. She lifted her chin and said, "I have every right to be here. I deserve to be treated with the same respect as anyone else." The hostess crossed her arms, smirking. "You can't just demand respect. Some places aren't for everyone." The words cut deeper than any blade. The room seemed to shrink, the warmth of the restaurant turning into ice. Maya felt anger rising, but also a strange calm. Because deep down she knew this story wasn't going to end the way the hostess thought. What Maya didn't know was that the very person who owned this restaurant, the one who built it with sweat and sacrifice, was about to walk through that door. The room grew tense. A few customers whispered, casting uneasy glances at Maya, while others pretended not to notice at all. The weight of silence pressed heavily on her shoulders. She could feel eyes on her, some sympathetic, some indifferent, and some even hostile. Maya stood her ground, refusing to shrink away. "I'll wait here," she said firmly, gripping her book like a shield. Her voice didn't waver, though her heart was pounding. The hostess rolled her eyes dramatically. "Suit yourself," she muttered. Then, with a fake smile, she greeted another pair of diners who had just walked in. This couple, much like the family before, was seated immediately at one of the many open tables. Maya's blood boiled. She wasn't just being denied service, she was being humiliated, and right, in front of strangers. She noticed one of the waiters pause, clearly uncomfortable, but when the hostess shot him a sharp glare, he quickly turned away and busied himself with a stack of plates. Then came the whispers. A man at a nearby table leaned toward his wife, murmuring just loud enough, "Unbelievable. It's the 21st century and this is still happening." His wife nodded but kept her head down, not daring to speak louder. The hostess, however, doubled down. "Why don't you take your attitude somewhere else?" she sneered at Maya. "You're holding up the line." Maya took a slow breath, refusing to lash out. She knew that if she exploded, the blame would somehow fall on her. Instead, she asked again, calmly but firmly, "Are you refusing to seat me because I'm black?" The question sliced through the air. Conversations around the restaurant fell. Quiet. Forks stopped clinking. All eyes turned toward the counter. The hostess stiffened, her smirk faltering for the first time. "Don't twist my words," she snapped defensively, but her tone betrayed her. Everyone had heard the truth in her earlier statement. Maya could feel the tension boiling over. Her voice remained steady. "Everyone here heard you, and I'm not moving until this is addressed." Just then, the restaurant's front door swung open. The sound of footsteps echoed against the wooden floor. Heads turned as a tall man in a crisp suit walked in, his presence commanding instant respect. It was the owner. The door closed behind him with a heavy thud, and instantly the room seemed to breathe differently. The tall man scanned the dining area with calm authority, his sharp eyes taking in the strange tension hanging over the restaurant. He was no stranger to running a busy night, but this silence was unusual, and it told him something was very wrong. Maya didn't recognize him. At first, to her he looked like just another customer, until she noticed how the staff reacted. The waiters straightened instantly, their nervous energy betraying guilt. The hostess, on the other hand, froze in place, her confident smirk vanishing as color drained from her face. "Maya," the owner said softly after overhearing enough. Her name wasn't known to him, but the situation spoke louder than any introduction. He could read the room, the half-empty tables, the nervous guests, and the young woman standing defiantly at the counter. "Is there a problem here?" His voice was calm, but beneath that calmness was a weight, the kind that demanded the truth. The hostess stammered, fumbling for words. "Oh, no, sir, just busy tonight." But Maya didn't stay silent. She looked him straight in the eye and said, "She told me you don't serve people like me here." Gasps rippled through the room. Guests exchanged uneasy looks, and even the waiter holding plates nearly dropped them. The hostess's face went pale, and she shook her head frantically. "She's lying." The owner's gaze shifted to her, sharp as a blade. One look, and the hostess's voice cracked under its weight. She had no defense strong enough to cover her cruelty, and everyone in that restaurant knew it. The air grew so thick that it felt like the next moment would decide everything. The truth, justice, dignity. Maya's heart pounded in her chest, not knowing if this man was about to side with her, or crush her spirit even further. And then, he stepped forward. But what he said next, no one in that restaurant could have predicted. The owner stepped closer, his polished shoes echoing across the wooden floor. Every eye in the restaurant followed him as he stopped directly in front of the hostess. His expression was unreadable, calm, stern, but with a dangerous kind of stillness that made even the loudest whisper die away. "Is that true?" he asked, his voice steady but firm. "Did you tell this young woman she wasn't welcome here?" The hostess's lips trembled. She avoided his eyes, fumbling with the reservation book in her hands. I didn't mean it like that. She was being difficult and— Enough! His single word cut through the air like a sharp blade. He turned toward Maya, his expression softening. "Miss, is that exactly what she said to you?" Maya held her ground, refusing to let fear shrink. Her voice, "Yes. She told me, and I quote, 'We don't serve people like you here.' And then she continued to seat others while ignoring me." The owner closed his eyes for a brief second, inhaling deeply as if to contain his anger. When he opened them again, they burned with conviction. "Then she will never serve anyone here again," the hostess gasped. "Wait, you can't—" "You're fired," the owner said, his tone final. "Right here, right now. Get your things and leave." The room erupted in a stunned silence. Guests glanced at each other, some whispering, others nodding in approval. The hostess, red-faced and trembling, tried to argue, but the weight of his words left her powerless. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her, but no one dared to defend her. The owner then turned fully to Maya. His voice carried both apology and regret. "Miss, this restaurant was built by my parents. They taught me that food brings people together, that no one should ever feel unwelcome at our tables. I am deeply ashamed of what just happened to you under my roof." Maya, still processing the whirlwind of events, felt tears sting her eyes. For the first time that night, she didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. The owner gestured to the nearest waiter. "Please show her to the best table we have. Tonight her meal is on the house." The waiter, relieved and eager to make amends, guided Maya to a quiet corner by the window. As she sat down, guests began to clap softly. First one table, then another, until the entire restaurant filled with applause. Not for the food, not for the service, but for the simple act of justice they had just witnessed. Maya lowered her head, humbled yet empowered. She hadn't come here to fight a battle, but somehow, by refusing to be silenced, she had forced change to happen. The owner walked over to her table once more, lowering his voice. "Thank you for speaking up. People like you make us better. This place will never tolerate hate, not as long as my name is on the door." Maya nodded, her voice quiet but firm. "That's all anyone ever wants, to be treated with respect." The night that began with humiliation ended with dignity. And as Maya sipped her glass of water, she realized that sometimes the most powerful victories come not from shouting the loudest, but from standing firm when it matters most. That night, Maya didn't just walk out of a restaurant, she walked out carrying something far greater. She had been reminded of a painful truth: prejudice still exists in places where it shouldn't. But she had also witnessed something powerful. When people in positions of authority choose courage over silence, justice can be restored. The owner's decision to fire the hostess wasn't just about protecting one customer. It was about sending a message to everyone watching. Hate has no place at the table, and respect, dignity, and equality aren't privileges. They are basic human rights. Maya realized that her choice to stand her ground mattered. She could have walked away quietly, swallowed her pain, and convinced herself it wasn't worth the fight. But by speaking up, she forced the truth into the open. She held someone accountable. And because of that, every person in that restaurant left with a memory they would never forget. The lesson here is simple, but powerful. Silence protects injustice, while courage dismantles it. You don't always need to shout. You don't always need to fight. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to back down when you know you're right. And here's something else to remember. Our reactions matter. Some guests that night looked away, while others whispered uncomfortably. But imagine if everyone had stood up with Maya, supporting her in that moment. Change becomes unstoppable when more voices unite against wrong. So ask yourself, when you see injustice, will you turn away or will you stand firm? Because every time one person chooses courage, it gives others the strength to do the same. Maya's story is not just about her, it's about all of us. It's a reminder that kindness and fairness must be defended, not just spoken about. Because in the end, the measure of a community isn't in how it treats the powerful, but how it treats those who are most vulnerable. And if this story moved you, if it made you think twice about the kind of world you want to live in, then don't let it end here. Share this video so others can hear it. Subscribe so more voices like Maya's can be amplified. And most importantly, carry this lesson with you. Because the next time you witness injustice, your voice could be the one that changes everything.